very much, and hello everybody, good morning. So I'm here today to help you sort of start the process of thinking about university and next steps. I'm here hopefully to give you some tools and some tips that will help you make an informed decision. What I'm not here today to do is to tell you what you should be doing or how you should be doing it, but hopefully, as I said, sparking curiosity and starting you looking at what you might do next. So I've spent the last 10, 11 years working in higher education. So I've been at the university for 3.5 years. Before that, I worked for UCAS, working with students all over the country, but also working really closely with admissions teams from a range of different universities, colleges, and other higher education providers. So I'm hopefully going to share that experience with you and give you tools and tips to take away from today. What I want to start the day by doing is talking a little bit about choosing a course. I think it's really important that research is the biggest part of your process over the next few months. By doing research, you're not just deciding where you want to study, what you want to study, but you're also understanding what universities are looking for from their students. I will then talk about the personal statement. I'll talk about advice and guidance and ways to approach it in its current form, and really hopefully give you those practical tips and tricks to take away from today and to help you with whatever you decide to do, whether you decide to apply to Bath or elsewhere. A lot of the tips that I'll share can be used for lots of different applications. So I'm here obviously today from a university. I'm an advocate for university. I think it's fantastic. It's for lots of people life-changing, life-enriching. The opportunities that you get by going to university are fantastic, but it's not the only route and it's not a compulsory step that you must take when you leave school. So obviously the talk today is all about university, but there are fantastic other options that you might also want to consider, whether it be going straight into employment, going down the apprenticeship route, or even just taking a year out to reassess and decide what you want to do next. And I think it's really important you take responsibility for your next steps and you really think about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. So if you are thinking about university, I would really start by thinking or asking yourself, why do I want to go to university? There's no right answer to this, and you all have your different takes on it. Teachers, friends, parents, siblings who might have already gone to university, they'll have their input. But I'd really start with that basic question. Why is it you want to go to university? Then you can start asking them more practical questions about what university, where it is, what course, and then you can move on to thinking about how do I then get into a course or a university that I wanted to go. But it's really important to be inquisitive, to have an open mind, and to really think about all of the options that are available to you. So, everyone here will have their own motivations for wanting to go to university. I'm going to talk through a few reasons why I think you may want to consider going to university. This is not an exhaustive list, but I really encourage you to start thinking in this kind of broad, bigger picture to help you make that informed decision. So, fundamentally, most people will say that they want to go to university to increase their knowledge on a particular area. Maybe you're studying physics at the moment, you're doing physics A-level, you're doing maths A-level, and you really just want to go and you want to study theoretical physics or experimental physics, and that's what you want to do, and it's a continuation of what you're currently doing. It might be that you want to start something completely new, so you might want to go to university to do a social science that you haven't already studied, maybe engineering. It might be that you want to go and use the different facilities that universities can offer, particularly in the more sort of science or engineering and the kind of STEM-based routes. And that is, again, a fantastic and a valid reason for wanting to go. At university, you'll be taught by people who are experts in their fields. You'll be taught by people who have spent their professional life dedicated to a subject, and they'll be wanting to share their insights, their passion and their knowledge with you as a future scientist, as a future engineers, or whatever it might be. And yes, at university, as an undergraduate, you will have the opportunity to get involved with really exciting, groundbreaking research in a huge array of different fields. It might be that you have a very specific career trajectory in mind and you want to go to university. There's some very obvious examples. If you want to do medicine, you've got a very clear route there you want to take. If you want to go and be a vet, again, similarly. But increasingly, students are going to university to arm themselves with skills that will then support them getting a graduate job in a range of different fields. And you're getting skills that you acquire at university which will support you in future jobs, in future life, and in future different fields that you go into. I think the key thing that you can get from a university education is those transferable skills that will stay with you throughout your professional life. Whether it be the personal skills, for some people, you're going to university, you're developing skills that you won't have developed here at school, whether that be the practical skills like time management, you won't have teachers shepherding you to and from every lecture, whether it be the first time you've had to manage your own budget, cook for yourself, wash for yourself, all these basic life skills which you can develop in a sort of safe and nurtured environment. The academic skills, hopefully that kind of goes without saying, but the skills you develop at university, often you'll use when you get into professional life, whether it be report writing, research that you undertake, all of these skills will stay with you and be useful throughout your career. And the career, lots of people now will cite their career as there being the main kind of driver for their university choices. And when you're looking at university options, I'd really encourage you to look at, yes, the degree, yes, to the kind of the details of the degree, but also the career support that universities can offer in a variety of different ways. Again, another very popular reason that people want to go to university and cite is the student life and the opportunities that brings, whether it be meeting people from a range of different backgrounds from all over the world, whether it be getting involved in clubs and societies that you either do now and you really want to continue, or trying new things. And university is a really broad opportunity to broaden your horizons and develop networks, again, that will stay with you throughout your life. So thinking about what you should study, and I think it's important to start with the what before the where. What is it that you want to study? What is it you want to continue studying or start studying when you get to university? Before I get into details, if I was to say I could give someone in this room a free holiday, but I could only do that if I know where everyone wants to go, this is very much a hypothetical situation. I don't have the funds or the power to give a free holiday. But if I could give everyone a free holiday, I needed to know where I wanted to go. Hands up if you like a free skiing holiday. A few of you. Who would like a party holiday, someone like Ibiza, pool parties. Beach holiday. A lot of beach holidays, sounds nice at this time of year. And then a city break, someone like Paris, Milan, a few. So you've all obviously everyone's put their hands up for the different options. And that is the same kind of process when you're going to look at universities. You should be making a decision for you, not what your friends are doing, not what your parents might want you to do or teachers. You should be taking responsibility for deciding what that next step looks like for you. This is a really complicated table. Well, not really complicated, we may not be able to see all the detail, but I wanted to share with you some insight from UCAS, which they shared at a conference I was at yesterday. I'll give you the slides after today so you can take it away and look at it in detail. But basically what it is 20 factors that students in their first year of university have cited as being important when looking at university choice. And there's, as I said, 20 different options. Most of them have changed over the last sort of 4 cycles, but actually the top 4 factors that students are citing have stayed the same in the last 4 years, and probably going back more than that as well. So number 1 is the range of modules available in a course, and that has been consistent, as I said, for the last 4 years. So it's understanding that when you're looking at university choices, looking at options, universities don't follow a national curriculum. Universities set their own agenda, they set their own timetables, and different institutions will teach the same subject in very different ways. And you should be looking at what modules you can study, not only in the first year. Often a lot of first year courses are very set, but second and third year. So really crude example, if you're somebody who loves history and you've got a real passion on the French Revolution, you need to make sure the history course you're studying at gives you the opportunity to study the French Revolution. And whatever course you're looking at, I'd encourage you to look at the module detail as well as the overall picture. Student reviews. Increasingly, students are saying that actually the input they value most is that peer-to-peer support. So current students telling them what life is like. Whether that be about the academics, social life, usually a bit of a mix, but there's lots of different platforms where you can look at student reviews to help inform that decision making. Social life, again, students' peer-to-peer reviews is a really important part of that. Different universities will offer very different social settings. It's not just about drinking now. There's lots and lots of opportunities that don't involve drinking if you don't drink. Don't feel you have to, be a drinker to enjoy university life. There are so many clubs and societies available across every university. And have a look, when you're looking at universities, what opportunities are there on the social circuit as well as the academic side of things. And then location, university location is really important. Where are you actually going to be studying? Where are you going to be living? So I studied at Cardiff University. Cardiff's a city university, so we used to have to walk about 20, 25 minutes to and from lectures, from halls. Bath is a campus university. It takes you about 10, 15 minutes to walk from one end of campus to the other. But depending on where you're looking at, it will have a big bearing on your experience as a student. So understanding not just where you're going to be studying, but where you're going to be living, how you're going to get to and from lectures, has a huge impact on your enjoyment and ultimately your experience of being a student. And the choice is overwhelming in terms of options available to you. You've probably all got ideas in your head about courses, about universities, but there is a huge, huge range of choice out there across hundreds of different universities, colleges, and across thousands, tens of thousands of different courses you can get onto. Lots of different types of courses, whether it be your traditional 3-year model, a Bachelor of Science, a BSc, Bachelor of Art, a BA, or now increasingly things like undergraduate masters, where you'll study for 4 years, but you'll get a master's at the end of your studies as well as your undergraduate qualification. Foundation courses, degree apprenticeships, not as many of those, but increasingly there are different options that you can take. And to try and give you a sense of that, what I want to do is a little game where I'm going to put up some courses on the screen, and I want you guys to guess whether you think they're real courses or whether they're not real courses. So, chemistry with management. Hands up if you think that's a real university course. Yeah, about half of you. So yeah, it is a course and it's at the University of Bath. These aren't all Bath examples, I promise. But actually the reason this course exists is that a lot of chemistry graduates, they go into pharmaceutical world where the management side of producing chemicals is really, really important. And they were saying they didn't have those management skills that some employers were looking for. So what it does, you study 70% of your time studying chemistry, and then the remaining 30% you do management. So you've got those skills that will help you in a real practical sense when you graduate. What about applied golf management studies? Who thinks that's a real course? A few hands straight up at the front, a few at the back. This is a real course. There are really specific courses that you can study, whether they be brewing studies at university you can do up in Scotland, whether it be golf management studies. If you have a really passion for golf, and I know there's a golf course here, some of you might be keen golfers, and that's something you want to do, then this is a fantastic opportunity. What about maths and French? Do you reckon you can combine those two subjects? A few of you? Yeah. You guys probably can't see the screen, can you? I just realised that. Sorry. So maths and French, yes, this is a real course offered at lots of different institutions across the country. What about tennis coaching and management? Who thinks that's a real course? Few hands, few. Who doesn't think it's real? So this isn't, but you can combine other sports with kind of management options. And at Bath we do sports management, which is a bit more general, and you can combine that with coaching. Last one, baking science and technology. Hands up for real. Hands up for not real. So this is a real course at the university. Cool, thank you for your interaction. What I'm not doing here is saying you should apply for these courses, but what I'm hopefully doing is just broadening your horizons. And it's not just the traditional courses that you might have heard of, but there are lots of options available to you when you're looking at university, when you're thinking about your next steps. So, talk a lot about research, and research is really, really important. But ultimately, what you're doing research for is two things. One is to help you decide where you want to study, where you want to go. But then two, to help you understand what we at universities are looking for from our students. What I'd really encourage you to do is when you're doing your research is not be passive. You should be really proactive. You should be taking notes. You should be shortlisting, making lists of pros and cons, and understanding what it is that you need to be telling universities. And this is an example of a worksheet that we use sometimes in kind of workshops that we offer. And what it's basically asking you to do is look through your options, and through UCAS you can apply to 5 choices if you want to. And in this table you can note down skills, knowledge and experience that universities are looking for your specific course. On course pages and in prospectuses, we're not going to say the skills we want from our students are ... The knowledge we look for is ... But if you read the information, it's fairly clear quite quickly the types of things we're looking for. So on this example here, it's computer science as an example. We're looking for skills, strong performance in maths, logical thinking. And then if you are then going to apply for computer science at Bath, we would then want you to provide evidence of the fact that you are a logical thinker and you have an analytical way of doing things. And actually, if you do that for all of your choices across your 5 choices on UCAS, hopefully you will see a theme, a recurring theme of the skills, knowledge and experiences that then you'll be able to reflect upon and make a really strong application. We talked a little bit already about some academic factors to consider, but I think it's really important just addressing them quickly before we move on to kind of a bit more specific guidance. So when you're looking at your course options, it's so important, as we've already mentioned, to understand the content of the course you're going to be studying. What is it you're going to be studying in first year, second year? What options are optional, which are compulsory, and really understanding that. As was alluded to at the start, the assessment methods at universities will vary hugely. There are lots of courses which are purely exam-based, purely coursework, or actually in reality lots of courses now have a real blend. At Bath there's about 9 different assessment methods we use across our courses. So in lots of our STEM courses we have a real focus on communication, the ability to present complex information in a synthesized and sort of non-scientific way. If you're somebody that really appeals to, then Science at Bath might be an option that you want to consider. Teaching style, hugely, hugely important. This goes hand in hand with the size of the cohort that you're going to be admitted onto your course with. That has a huge bearing on your experience as a student. If you are somebody who likes being an anonymous face in a crowd, a big business course might be the option for you where you've got 400 or 500 students. For me, I know when I got to Cardiff, I did business management. I was one of 400 students, and I found it really almost overwhelming not to have a relationship with a professor, not to know them. I'd come from a small kind of local school where everyone knew everybody, and I'd walk past the professors in the hallway and they just wouldn't know, they don't know who you are because there's just too many faces. And if you're somebody who really relies on that support, you want to look at courses and universities where the cohort and the ratios are smaller, and it does have a huge impact on your time as a student. The entry requirements, this probably goes without saying, and I'll talk about that in a bit more detail in a moment, but it's really important you understand and you're looking at entry requirements to match your kind of trajectory from school. And rankings, I think it's really tempting to look at rankings, and yes, they are great for lots of things. You need to be looking at rankings on a course basis, not on a university basis. Different university courses will be ranked very differently, and understanding the rankings and the different metrics used will really help you shape the decision which is right for you. So I mentioned entry requirements already. It's important to think about, what are the entry requirements? How high are they? How realistic are they in terms of my ability, my attainment? What do they ask for? Is it specific qualifications? Is it UCAS tariff points? And really understanding that detail will help you. Most university courses don't require an interview, but if you are going to be looking at courses where there is an interview, understanding what that interview looks like, the type of interview, what kind of things you'll be asked to do. At Bath, we don't interview with the exception of 2 courses, and that's social work and our pharmacy course. Pharmacy is a very kind of rigorous interview where you are tested on lots of different things. Social work is much more informal. It's basically an opportunity to come visit campus and you meet people who are studying on the course, you meet some of the academics, and it's just a chat to see how you kind of do in that social environment. And very, very different experiences in terms of an interview. EPQ, whether you're doing an EPQ, if you are doing one, some universities, Bath included, will look very favourably on that. We offer a reduced offer for students who are taking an EPQ. So if you get an A in your EPQ, you'll get access to an alternate offer, which is 1 grade lower. So if you applied for a course with 3 A's, you get an A in your EPQ, your offer would go down to 2 A's and a B at A level. And that's purely because the EPQ, we recognise the skills you develop will support you and help you make a smooth transition into university life. Okay, so then we thought about the what, it's now important to think about the kind of the where. So very much on the theme of holidays. Again, imagine I could give you a free holiday. You've got two options. Hands up who thinks a free holiday to Barbados sounds good. Most of you. How about a free holiday to Bath? Sometimes there's one or two, a couple of hands. If I were to give you a little bit more information and say the Barbados holiday, actually what it's going to be is going to be a working holiday. We're going to be doing manual labour on a building site. We're going to be camping and it's hurricane season. And actually if you've chosen Bath, what we're going to be doing is we're going to pick you up a helicopter. We're going to give you £5,000 cash. You're going to stay in the rooftop spa, have private access to it for you and 5 friends. If I gave you the chance to choose again, I imagine some of you think, actually, you know what? Bath sounding pretty appealing now. You as a student, okay, are going to be marketed to by universities, Bath included. You are consumers of higher education. As crude as that sounds, that is the reality. So you need to be savvy in the way that you look at information that is presented to you. What is it that the universities are offering, not just in terms of entry requirements, but the whole package, the course, the accommodation, and you need to be kind of using the information you get critically to decide what's right for you. If you're being offered an incentive, don't just think, I need to accept it. Use that information to decide what is right for you. So you're all individuals, and I obviously don't know you on an individual basis, but there are different things and different factors that you'll consider. Thinking back to that table I shared earlier on. These are a few other things that you probably want to think about. The course we've mentioned, location, not just within the city or the town, but within the country as a whole. What are the transport links like? Are you allowed to have visitors visiting you in first year accommodation? If you drive a car, does the university let you have a car on campus? Is it a campus university? Is it a city university? Rankings mentioned already, but important to not overlook the importance of those. Opportunities, and opportunities we're not just talking about on your course, but whether you have the opportunity to do things like placements, internships. At Bath, we offer all of our courses, either the option of doing a study abroad or a professional placement as part of your degree. Facilities, yes, you'll be drawn to looking at different facilities, whether it be academic, sporting, or a bit of a mix. But it's important not to use facilities that aren't relevant to you to sway a decision. And then accommodation, yes, not just where you're going to be living, but will you be offered accommodation by the university? Is it guaranteed? How much does it cost? And all those important factors, which again, massively shape your time as a student. So I don't know whether you guys get the opportunity to go to open days as part of the kind of school curriculum here, but where possible, I really encouraged the option to go to an open day. Going to an open day is the single best way to experience what it's like at a university. So you need to plan an open day. You know, when are they? Do I need to book? How many people do I need to book for? How are you going to get there? What to expect when you get to an open day as well. On the UCAS website, so ucas.com, there's loads of resources to help you planning an open day and making sure that you're going in, again, you're not being passive, but you're going there to ask questions, you're being proactive, you may be meeting with academics which are relevant to you, you're looking at facilities which are what you want to see, and making sure that they are there for you and really getting what you want out of them. Okay, so moving on to personal statement and giving you some kind of guidance and kind of direction around that. With the personal statement, I'm not here today to tell you what you should be including in it, what you should be writing, but said hopefully going to give you some tools and some tips to take away to shape your own personal statement. The experiences that I've got, I'm obviously going to share my insight and the kind of stance we have at the University of Bath. At Bath, we are a selective university. Most of our courses are oversubscribed, so we place a significant value on the personal statement, and we look at that and we use that to shape the decision making that we do and the offers that we make. Okay, next bit of interaction. I know there's a lot of us, and this is going to be a bit of a trial, but what I'd like to do in a moment is I'm going to invite you all to stand up and think of a word or phrase that you think of when you think of a personal statement. It's not a test, it's not a trick, it's literally what I'm going to do is get you to think of that word or phrase. I'm then going to read out a list of words or phrases that I associate with the personal statement, and if I say the word or phrase you're thinking of, I'm going to get you to sit down. When I get to the end of my list, if anyone's still standing, which usually there will be a couple, I want you just to shout out what you're thinking. Said it's not a test, it's not a trick. I'm not marking anyone's work. So everyone stand up, think of a word or phrase if you're able to. Okay. So if I say the word or phrase that you're thinking of, sit down, and then at the end, if people are still standing, just shout out what you're thinking. So, confused, stressed, confident, scared, exciting, easy, hard, complicated, essay, application, UCAS, uni or university, extra or super curricular, evidence, passion or passionate, admissions, enthusiasm, enthusiastic, overwhelming, challenging, self-aware, driven, unprepared, uncertain, or motivated. Okay, people who are standing up, just shout and then just sit down. Background, thank you. Long. Yeah. Unique. Cool. So, you all sat down at various points, and whilst it's a fun exercise just to get you thinking, it's really important to understand that what we're looking for in our personal statements from our students is that in authenticity. We want your personality, your experiences to shine through. I'm going to talk through how we use them and what they look for, but it's important to understand that, yes, they might be scary, they might be slightly overwhelming, but there are lots of support available to you as a student approaching a statement, and hopefully today I'm going to give you some of that, or point you towards some of that support. Again, bit of activity, true or false. There's a lot of myths and there's a lot of misconceptions around personal statement, which I'm hopefully going to try and get to the bottom to today. True or false, you need to write a separate personal statement for each university you apply to. Hands up if you think that's true. One hand at the back. Who thinks it's false? Yeah, absolutely. So you have one application, one personal statement to cover 5 choices. Most students will apply to the same or similar subjects across their choices. If you are looking to apply to very, very different subjects, I'd really urge you to speak to teachers, speak to people who know you, think about your options, and to kind of decide the best course through. And happy to have a chat on an individual basis with people if helpful. Next one, the structure of the statement has changed, ready for applications for 2026. Hands up if that's true. Yeah, hands up if it's false. So it is true, and I'm going to be talking you through the new structure and what that looks like. This is probably giving this away a little bit, but the statement is now made up of 3 questions that you need to answer. Hands up if that's true. Yeah, any for false? Again, I'm going to go through that in a minute. Yes, it is 3 questions, which we'll talk through in detail. Just listing your academic achievements and hobbies is enough. Hands up for true. Couple of hands at the back. Hands up for false. Yeah, absolutely. What we're not looking for is a list of achievements in a personal statement. The best statements are reflective, they're self-aware, they're able to draw together different arguments they've seen and they've picked up, whether it be through academic work, tying together academics to the real world. And that reflection is what will stand you out as a strong applicant. So only 2 more true or false activities, and then I promise I'll let you go back to having a bit of peace. Universities don't read personal statements anyway. Hands up if you think that's true. Good. Hands up if you think that's false. Universities will all use personal statements slightly differently, but universities do read their statements. They are valued, and particularly at selective universities, we look at them and we use them to help us make offers to our students. So they are super important, and they are your chance to tell us why we should make you an offer. Last one, you can talk about TED Talks and documentaries in your personal statement. Hands up for true. Okay, hands up for false. Absolutely, we want you to be talking about things that tie into your subjects. And I said I'll talk through this in a bit more detail. So, when we receive an application at a university, what we're looking at is your whole application holistically. We're wanting to see the context in which you've achieved your prior performance, so usually GCSEs. We want to see what your teachers think you're going to achieve in any pending qualifications, whether it be A-levels or BTECs or anything else. But often at selective universities like Bath, the prior and predicted performance is really, really strong. Often the profile of students are very, very similar. We'll have students applying for our most selective courses with 8s and 9s across all of their GCSEs, predicted sort of 2 A stars or even 3 A stars at A level. And actually the only point of difference is this personal statement. So the personal statement is so important and is absolutely looked at by admissions selectors. At Bath, 2 people will look at it and they'll review it to shape a decision that we'll give you. The bottom 4 boxes for most courses at Bath don't come into play. As I say, we mentioned the interviews already. We don't ask for admissions tests, but we know that some people might be taking them for other courses. Let us know if that's the case. And then mitigating circumstances and contextual data is looked at on an individual basis. So, the personal statement is 4,000 characters. Okay, that hasn't changed from last year. 4,000 characters, not 4,000 words. Split across 3 different questions or sections where you're telling us why it is we should be making you an offer. It's your chance to tell us about skills, achievements, and any relevant work experience or just life experience that you want to tell us about. All of your universities that you apply to will see that same personal statement, so it needs to be working for all of the courses that you're applying for. There are some exceptions to that, which I'm happy to talk about. And really crucially, that box in the bottom right-hand corner, it really can be the difference between a yes and a no from a university. Not just at the point of application where it's looked at initially, but then also afterwards. If we make you a conditional offer, maybe of getting 2 A stars or an A star and 2 A's, if you then get 3 A's, if you've got a really, really strong personal statement, where possible, and I sort of stress that where possible, we will try and be flexible, and a strong statement may be able to increase that flexibility. Often at Bath, we're not able to be that flexible with entry requirements just because of the nature of the admissions that we do, but it can be that point of difference in lots of cases. I know there's a lot of sort of discussion and sort of conversation around the new structure, and ultimately what's happening in the new personal statement isn't hugely different to what happened in generations gone by. What it's designed to do, and the kind of main driver for the change, is to make the process slightly less daunting for students, but then also for us as universities to be a bit more explicit about what we're looking for from students in a statement. As before, they are absolutely critical to the decisions that we make. That hasn't changed. We use them holistically, so we look at, I said, your grades, your predicted grades, and any other relevant information when making a decision. I think this is a really important message to get across today, and I think most other universities will say similar. We, in reality, don't mind which section you put the information in. In a moment, I'll talk about where we expect to see certain things, but we're not going to penalise you if you put something in section 2 that should be in section 1. We want to make offers where we can. Obviously, yes, we need to see a bit of thought process, a bit of logic to it, but don't stress too much if you can't decide where to put stuff. As before, and I'm going to talk about this in a bit more detail, what we're looking for is students to demonstrate that they think analytically, that they're able to reflect on that exercises and activities that they've already done. And basically, you're just telling us that you're suitable for that course that you've applied for. And absolutely, the key is evidence. Okay, so we've talked about evidence a couple of times already, but what I mean by when I talk about evidence is telling us that you are a team player or that you think analytically isn't enough. What you need to do is provide real tangible evidence that demonstrates how you can act as a team player or how you work in a particular way. So, thinking about what to include in a personal statement, you're all going to approach it differently, and I'd encourage you all to be authentic in the way that you approach it. The focus of your statement has to be an academic focus. You're applying for academic courses at academic institutions. In previous years, I probably would have stood here and said about 80% focus on academic. Actually now, at the most selective universities, We want to see it pretty much at 90-95% focus on academics. That doesn't mean that we want you to just regurgitate what you've done in your A-levels, what you've done in whatever qualifications. But what we want to see is that your extra or your supercurricular that you might be doing tied to or referred to the academic discipline that you're applying to. So speaking to teachers this morning about your school newspaper, you can make that work for you in an academic context, thinking about how you synthesize information, how you communicate. That's the kind of thing that we're looking for, okay? So we're not saying academic, we want you just to regurgitate what you've already been taught, but thinking about the wider world and how your subject ties into it is what we want to see. Talked a lot about research already. The best statements are clearly well researched and they reflect to universities what we want to see. Talked about evidence, that's absolutely key. Sorry to sound like a broken record, but the more evidence you provide, the more persuasive you'll be, and ultimately the more chance you will have of receiving an offer. This is hopefully a given, and with all the technologies out there, really important to focus on spelling and grammar. Often we get statements that have been corrected or miscorrected, and important to make sure that what you're telling us is what you want to tell us. Be really clear with language. Yes, I know some students will you might use AIs to help you. I'd really encourage you to steer clear of AI for your personal statement. If you are really struggling to write anything down on paper, I'd think, encourage you to think more broadly about your options and what you want to do. The language that you use in your statement has to be understandable for people who don't know you. We need to understand what you're telling us. The more complicated language that you use, the more sort of complex words that you try and throw into a statement, the harder it is to be persuasive in lots of cases. It's very easy for me to come here today and to tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing or how to approach a statement. It's not an easy thing to write the personal statement. You won't sit down in one afternoon and get it done. It will take drafting, redrafting. You'll have to get people to help you and to feed into what you're doing. And understanding it's a process is going to be really important. Giving yourself time to write your best statement possible is absolutely important. There's no such thing as a perfect personal statement, but actually what we want to see is that your uniqueness, your authenticity shining through really clearly and giving us lots of reasons to give you offers. The last point, even in this new structure, please don't be tempted to overuse quotes. We don't need physicists to tell us what Stephen Hawking did or thinks. What we want to see is you reflect on the theories of particular people who you're interested in, reflect on information you've seen, and that will help you to stand out. We don't need you to waste character count with quotes. I can stand here and you'll probably see lots of different people talking to you about personal statements over the next few weeks and months, and you go online, there's loads of different sources of information. But ultimately, what we're still looking for in a statement is students to answer two very simple questions. So why do you want to study the subject? And then what makes you the right person to study the course that you've applied for? So it's that very simple questions, but actually quite complicated to answer. But thinking about your answers to those two questions will really help you tackle the sort of three sections with confidence. So this is the three questions which you hopefully will be aware of. If you aren't, here they are, that you are being asked to complete in your application via UCAS. So the first one, why do you want to study? That has always been really important. Why is it you want to study the course that you've applied for? Secondly, qualifications. What qualifications or how are your qualifications and other studies helping you prepare for your course? And then thirdly, what else have you done to prepare outside of education, and why are these experiences useful? So when we talk about outside education, we're basically talking about anything you've done to supplement your learnings, whether it be research, whether it be extracurricular activities that are developing academic skills, whether it be reading, documentaries that you've watched, podcasts that you've listened to. I'm going to talk about this in a bit more detail under each section now. So, the why. Why do you want to go to university? As we showed when we got everyone to stand up, most people sat down at different points. You all have your own individual motivations that you have for wanting to study your course. Here, you might talk about a future career aspiration that you've got. It might be you have a very specific career in mind that you need to do a specific degree for. It may be you want to do a PhD in a specific discipline, and that's what you want to do. Here, again, you might want to reflect on specific knowledge that really encourages you to want to study your specific subject. But what we're looking for here is your uniqueness, your character to stand out, be authentic, and really articulate your why. Question 2 then, this is the chance for you to tell us about what you've done in your specific qualifications that will help you and help you prepare for the subject you want to study at university. At Bath, and different universities may be slightly different on this, but at Bath we recognise this might be, I'm not saying it should be, but it might be a shorter section for some students. So here you might want to tell us about, if you're applying for mechanical engineering, you want to talk to us about your kind of maths and your physics skills. You might want to talk about how that's going to prepare you for your engineering program. But it might also be that you're you're applying to study something like maybe criminology or economics, which you haven't already studied, and you want to reflect on how your current studies are going to help you on your university course. It's here to talk. You can also talk to us about the skills that you've developed doing your A-levels, doing your BTECs, which are going to help you when you get on to your course. And it might be that you want to talk about other relevant educational qualifications or experiences. And on screen are a few examples of those. This is not an exhaustive list of other educational activities, but it might be that you've done an additional AS qualification. It might be, as I said, at the EPQ. It might be that you've done some maths competitions or other competitions, or if you are doing maths, there's lots of ways, whether it be Maths Olympiad, admissions tests, anything at all that can show you've gone that little bit extra will really help you in the most competitive courses. So the third section then, what else have you done to prepare you outside of the education? And when we say outside of education, what we really mean is outside of formal education. So this is basically your chance to tell us anything else that you want to highlight. So it might be, as I said, your reflection on what's happening in the world around you. If you're applying for something like politics with international relations, never has there been a more kind of richer real world pool of examples you can reflect on. But what we're looking for here is your enthusiasm and your interest in your subject to really, really shine through. And there's a technique that we recommend students use. It's something called the peel technique. I imagine most of you or some of you will have heard of this already. But when we're asking you to tell us about, or talk about evidence, what we're really looking for you to do is be really clear with what point is that evidence going to show, explain that evidence really, really crucially, but then it's only going to add weight to your application if you can then link it to that course that you're applying for. So peel, hopefully, is a good technique that you can use to help you, and to kind of bring it to life on screen here is an example which we've tweaked from a strong application that we got, and hopefully, but I'll give you a few seconds to read through it. It's fairly clear what the subject the student is applied for, then also what point they're trying to make and how it links to the course. So I'll give you 20, 30 seconds just to read through it and just to kind of reflect on it. You are allowed to talk amongst yourselves if you want to for the 20, 30 seconds. Sorry for the guys on the, you obviously get the slides after today. It's just an example of somebody using the peel technique. Okay, so hopefully just by reading that one example, you can see how what we're looking for is not just for you to tell us what, or the student hasn't just told us what they've done, they're absolutely linking it to their ambition to study politics at university. And it's really, really important that when you come to include information in your statement, you're thinking about how you can reflect on that to strengthen your application and not just listing all the great things that you've done. It's likely, particularly with, if you've got great opportunities at a school like this, you've done an amazing range of different activities, you may not be able to tell us about everything that you've done, but what we want to see is you reflect on a few key examples in a really clear way. And there's lots of different examples that you could use in section 3. And the extracurriculars, yes, I was mentioned at the start that 95% focus on academics. Use your extracurriculars to shine a light on your academic strengths. It might be volunteering. It could be that you want to talk to us about a lived experience. Maybe you've done trips to specific museums, or you've met people who are doing a profession that you want to study. As I said, this is not an exhaustive list. These are hopefully just giving you an example of some of the sources you might use to talk about your academic discipline that you're applying for. Here's a few more examples. I'm not going to go through each of these. You'll be very familiar with all, if not most of these things, I'm sure. What all of these are free sources of information where you can reflect on and do some research into your academic discipline. So the strongest students are able to look at these activities, look at these sources of information, join ideas together from the academic theory to the real world, and then tell us why that's interesting, why that makes them interested to study the course they want to study. We talk a lot about wider reading in university applications. We want to see evidence of a student being really interested in the subject they're looking to study. As I said, you're not going to be able to tell us about every single piece of reading that you've done, every bit of evidence that you've got, but really just kind of think about what it is you're trying to tell us from the examples that you're showing, and really just reflect on what it is that you've learned and why you're showing to us. So, you can probably sum up with these kind of three directions with a strong personal statement. Focusing on the course that you're applying for is really, really important. It should be really clear from reading your statement what subject you want to apply for. You only have 4,000 characters, so you have to be really clear and brief with your language, and keep it simple. So, this is an example of a real application which we've anonymized. I'll give you a couple of seconds just to read it, and then I'm going to ask you to rate it. And keeping those three boxes on the left-hand side of the screen there. And for you guys here, I'll read it out for you. While I am no jet setter who bundles some outfits into her sleek hand luggage and disappears for the weekend, I am an excursionist. No stranger to experience, with every Duke of Edinburgh fixed like a step on the proverbial stairs of difficulty, I am a critical thinker who, with the firm belief that to understand we must see, I packed my bags and this summer I went. This is a real example of a personal statement. A scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not very good, 5 being amazing. Who thinks it's 5 out of 5? Hands up. 4, 3, 2, 1. If I'm feeling generous, it's a 2. It's probably a 1. Who knows what subject this student wants to apply for? Anyone want? Everyone say all different examples. I'm pretty sure this was a politics application. Just no relevance. What they've tried to do is talk in a language that just doesn't feel natural. This is another real example where hopefully you'll see a slight change. So, whilst I've always been fascinated by people, it was a talk by Dr. Alex George on apprenticeships and your well-being that ignited my interest in studying psychology at university. So, again, out of 5, hands up if you think it's a 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. So, for me, it's probably like 4, if I'm being generous, 4.1, 4.5, but it's really clear, okay? So you know it's really focusing on the course. You probably could slim down the language a little bit, but hopefully you can just see from those 2 examples the types of things that we see quite regularly. And actually, I read thousands of personal statements in my day-to-day, and often it does take you a couple of read-throughs to really understand what the student's applying for. So don't be afraid to say, X is why I want to study chemistry at university, or B, be really, really clear, and that will really help you communicate what you're trying to apply for. Don't worry, we're nearly at the end, I promise. Just got a few final tips and then a few resources to talk about. So Really important in your statement, you're not regurgitating the same information in multiple places. You don't need to start by saying, I'm currently studying maths, physics and history at A-level. We know that from elsewhere in the application. Hopefully you've got the point of not just listing achievements and skills. Use the peel technique to reflect on what you're telling us and to help you to differentiate yourself. Think about the language that you use. Don't start every sentence with I. Be a bit more creative, make it easy to read. Hopefully this is a given, but don't be tempted to plagiarize or use AI. You might want to use AI to help you kind of get the ball rolling, but I'd really encourage you to just kind of take some time, do your research, and then hopefully you can direct your application in a positive way. The more research that you do, the clearer it will become what the expectations are from the universities you're applying for. It's not an easy thing to write. You will take multiple drafts before you're happy with it. There is no such thing as perfect personal statement. So at some point, probably around about the autumn, you'll have to complete it, submit it, and then focus on getting the best grades possible. Get feedback, but do remember it's subjective, it's not always objective. So the more feedback you get, the more different messages you may receive. Think carefully about your use of language, but also about sentence structure. The way that you're trying to tell us something is really important. The clearer and the simpler, the better. And demonstrate your enthusiasm. I've given you hopefully lots of different examples you can reflect on, but there's no definitive list of things you should or shouldn't include. It could be anything at all you want to tell us about. Make it work for you. Make it show us why you're right for the course you've applied for and why you've applied for that particular course. Universities do look at the personal statement. They are important. I would encourage you to take the time to write a really strong statement to support your application. The structure, whilst different to previous years, we're not asking for something new. We're still looking for the same old things that we've always been looking for. You won't be penalised if you put information in the wrong section, certainly from a Bath perspective anyway. Tell us clearly why you're applying, what makes you the right person for the course, and just show us why you're ready to come and study higher at university with us. Loads of resources available, whether it be university websites, UCAS website, school, I'm sure will have lots of resources. But hopefully, please do reach out to universities. If you have questions, we're happy to answer them. Just follow us on social media. Use the sources of information that are available to you to make a strong application, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found that useful. I'm here all day, so please do come and ask questions if you have any.